Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I opened up the floor for chart requests for my members on YouTube as well as my subscribers on X for just a $5 fee per month. I just wanted to do. I wanted some ideas in terms of what I wanted to chart. A lot of people are asking the same things I've actually already charted just a few days ago. One is a lot of these fintech type stocks. I'm going to go through a few of them, and a few of them have been requested anyway. So talk about the first one here, and this is going to be real quick. I got SoFi here. This is the weekly chart. You can see how this Gann chart here has shown some really remarkable market symmetry, where it's just bounced from arc to arc, and right now it pushes through this arc above here, and it's been back testing the bottom of the arc. Right, so far we still have another trading day. This candle here is not closed yet, but so far it looks like we're holding our own here. On top of just holding our own, we also got a very quickly rising Tenkan up here. Tenkan is around 15.1. It would not surprise me at all if Friday turns out to be a bullish day and we end up closing about 15.1. It doesn't have to, right? But I just think that there is a chance for it to want to do that. Couple other things too. I do want to draw the fib level here, kind of show you what I'm thinking in terms of price action. This is the linear fib. You can see how it got rejected here at 0.5 here for closer to 2 months now. If you do a log scale, you can also see that it is finding support here after it got rejected here to 0.618 on the log fibs. Is finding support here so far, right? Could it come back test it down here a little bit more around 13.74? Yes, it can. Does it have to? No, it doesn't. Right? It's already looking pretty decent breakout and back test. So far, it looks like there's a lot of support zone down here below. Again, including Ichimoku Tenkan, including 0.618 log fib, including the Gann arc over here. Just a whole confluence of support zone here. We're just basically trying to flip it from resistance here to support, and so far so good. Right? That's SoFi. I think that if it's able to pass that, then it's going to pass to about $19 to $20, which is just right up here at 0.76 and at the arc up here. Ultimately, I think it's going to go a lot higher. Affirm. I've been asked about Affirm. What did I think about it? Well, there is a little bit of a scary thing here because it did break. Initially, last week, it did test at the arc here, and it held, right? This week, well, what is it doing right now? Got bearish engulfing candle going down. Well, let's look and see whether or not these things are scary. First of all, this week there's no volume at all, right? It's only been 3 days of trading. The volume is really pathetic, right? The entire downtrend here is also on declining volume here on the daily, right? So am I scared about this potential Marubozu candle just being really bearish because it's bearish engulfing? Not necessarily. Volume also matters. Context also matters, right? With that said, are we having any kind of potential support here at the zone? Well, we do have a rising Tenkan, very similar to SoFi. There's a possibility that we might end up closing above the rising Tenkan, depending on how bullish or bearish Friday is. We can push through down a lot further, or we can end up finding support here around 60.66. which is going to be the rising blue line up here, or it just be the confluent with the arc up here, which is around like $61. That could still potentially be support, right? Because there's no volume on this correction downtrend, whatever you call it. And this is still going to be, sometimes you just have a little bit overshoot here, when it's trying to push through about this arc here, went a little bit too far above, right? And then it just became a wick. Here, maybe 1 and 2, maybe these are going to be wicks, I don't know, right? If it isn't, then we might have some bearish continuation, and we might have to find some additional support down below. But right now, it looks like we just got rejected here at 0.382. And if you're also looking at the log fibs here, could it come back and back test to 0.618 here on log fibs? That's also an entire possibility, right? If it depends on what it does on Friday, if it ends up breaking down or ends up breaking up, regardless, I don't really care about these moves because it's on like no volume here at all. I still think that the next stop is going to be a 0.786 log fibs, which is going to be $92.56, wherever it's done finding a higher low here. Whichever way it's going to be, it can even go all the way down to the 40s, to the high 40s, and it will still be bullish. But I don't know whether or not it's going to, because I see a lot of support right before we getting there. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter because there's no volume. Shopify, I can totally see, actually Shopify looks great in terms of what it's been doing. It's been holding the Tenkan here as support here on the weekly, right? But there's a lot of potential downsides here for Shopify. It can potentially come back down here to this arc around $100. There's no guarantee that it's just going to keep going up, right? Just because you have this kind of formation, it could still make another leg down. Although it's possible that it's building up enough energy, it could break through the 0.786. If it does do that, then it's going to go a lot higher. If you're doing a linear scale, you can also see that the 0.786 is also exactly where 0.618 here on the linear is, and it could potentially get back up to here a little bit more and try to break through out of that zone. That's the upside risk, is it can break away. The downside risk, it can break down right to $100, which is where the arc is, and also where the 0.5 log fib is located. And if you're also looking at a bunch of other support here too, you can see that it could even go all the way back down, back test the monthly Ichimoku cloud around $94, $95, and this is still going to be a bullish chart, right? So there are some downside risks, but there's also some upside risks. It's kind of hanging out in limbo here in the middle. I don't know what to make of it. All I know is that this is a bullish chart, and I'm going to just keep holding. Robinhood, what do I think about Robinhood? Well, let's look at the weekly chart here. If I am pulling up the weekly GAN here, you can see that it really seems to just be breaking above, and it wants to keep pushing to the 0.786 up here, right? It looks like it wants to push up to the 0.786 up here. That's where price wants to gravitate to after it's already been backtesting the arc here for about 6 weeks now. And the volume's not great either. So high volume push through about the arc, low volume backtest. Can it go back test the arc again? Entirely possible. Can it break down the top part of the arc river, break down and test the bottom of the arc here right around 0.786? That's possible too, but I favor, because it's finding support here so far, to go up to $50, 49.52 here to be precise. That's where I favor it to go. Now, I think that's going to be a pretty strong resistance zone, and if we get there, we'll see what happens. But you are also having the Tenkan here rising up. All these fintech stock look about the same. Tenkan here rising up, right? So shall it need it, you're going to find some support here around 37, 37.5. That's going to be a pretty strong support zone, shall it need it. But it looks like it's just backtested the arc. It looks like it just wants to go up here. Depends on how it reacts here. That's going to determine how 2025 is going to be. Because this has been going up a lot higher over time, but this has a lot of momentum for it to even push through and go even higher. Because if you're pushing through here, the next area is going to be this arc up here, which is going to be around like 63, 65, 68, depends on where it lands, right? Robinhood looks pretty good. I would say that the upside risk is higher than the potential downside risk at this moment. I would say I'm just going to ride up along the trend and see what happens when there's some volume kind of picking up here, right? PayPal is also one of the more bullish stocks here. I drew this scan here also on the weekly, and you can see it's basically doing a very, very similar thing as the other ones where you have a rising Tenkan here. The only problem, so far you're a little bit underneath of that, which is fine. The only problem is that, well, there are two problems here. One is you got rejected here at the arc, you're hitting the arc resistance here, right? It's not like what you just saw before where you have stuff broken about the arc and just backtesting it. You are getting close to arc resistance, right? You see how this arc here was resistance, right? The other thing is also that it's been going up a lot higher really since July on declining volume. Now that's a little bit concerning. It doesn't mean that it's not going to keep going up higher. It can, but that's a little bit concerning, right? The third thing too is, even though you don't see any bearish divergence here on the weekly, on the daily it's been building up bearish divergence here for months now, right? Which is why the trend looks a little bit exhausted on a lower time frame. You have the weekly volume here declining on the uptrend, and you're hitting some strong arc resistance here. Let's say if you're breaking through here, you're probably going to end up getting rejected here about $100. That's kind of where you're looking at. And when you get to $100 where you get rejected, that's when you have to kind of try to find support down below, right? you're hoping that the bonus support band down here, which is closer to around $81, $82, is going to continue to push up as a support. We haven't even really back tested the bonus support band here yet. So yeah, I think that most likely we might even make like an ABC kind of back test this. And by then, I think people would be not happy about this anyway. If you're also looking at the monthly too, you can see you had a bullish cross here. There is a change in trend. I think it's going to gravitate up here to the bottom Ichimoku cloud here. But where is it going to hit? Is it going to hit like 130? Is it going to hit the 120? Is it going to hit like around, $100? I don't know exactly. All I know is that $100 is going to be a pretty strong resistance zone based on Fibonacci, and that we've been just going up on declining volume. So I don't know whether or not we have enough energy to really push through that resistance zone, if you will, right? You are seeing some pretty interesting thing here, where on the 2-week chart, you are breaking through the 2-week Ichimoku cloud from resistance here to support, right? Now, the question is it going to end up hang around here, or do we end up just having a little bit of false breakout and come back down here and back test some things? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that this is actually not a bad thing, because if you get rejected here around $100, which I think is going to probably end up getting rejected there, happy to be wrong if I am, but if you end up getting rejected at $100, you want to find some support, right? So let's say if we end up just pushing through the next month or two turned out to be very bullish and PayPal hits $100, it probably would get rejected, and it'd be nice if it has like a wick all the way back down to like the mid 80s. Where is that right now? It could find support even higher than that, right? You can find support even higher than that, but I think it would be nice to see that it's already broken through the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, although the candle is nowhere near being closed, right? This candle just started about 3 days ago. So you have this candle is not going to close into next week. So we'll see whether or not it's a little bit of a false breakout. But regardless, this is a bull trend. Don't get me wrong. All I'm trying to say is it's hitting resistance. It should find a higher low at some point. Is this going to be the higher low? It just looks a little bit too shallow to be, because the trend up here on decline volume looks exhausting. I think eventually you're going to need to find a higher low. I just don't know how low that higher low is going to be. But $100, I think people are going to end up selling that, because its resistance level on a fit level is also a resistance level from a psychological perspective, right? What are we doing here on Square? Are we scared on Square? Why should you be scared on Square when Square looks like this, right? There's really no reason to be scared. Where block SQ, but it was basically just broke above and back testing the area over here, right? There's nothing to get scared about this. Could it go all the way down to 0.382 around $83.64? Yeah, it can, right? That's a pretty important fit level. You can totally go back down and back test that area. But the important thing too is that it is not the SoFi Ichio. SoFi Ichio also look interesting, but also look at the Ichimoku, right? You see how the 2-week Ichimoku cloud has served as resistance here for so long. It broke through on increasing volume, and right now we're finding we're basically got some consolidation here on low volume right underneath the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. Are we going to break through? I don't know, right? It's going to consolidate here. It might come back down to 0.32, grab some liquidity, find some energy before bouncing up higher. Or you could even come back down to the Tenkan over here, depending on where it's going to be moving forward over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's just building up energy here on declining volume and trying to push through about this range over here. If it ends up, and it's just so much support down here, right? If it ends up pushing through, then it just goes a lot higher. But if it doesn't, there's still, the bonus support band is also right down here too, like in the low 80s. So if it comes down in the low 80s, that might be a good spot to consider adding or buying to me. I don't have a position because I already have a lot of Fintech, but I just find that to be a fascinating area to consider adding. Because ultimately, once it breaks through, 0.5 could be a resistance level, but I can see it going to 0.618, which is $134.34, right? Before it gets there, it also has the monthly Ichimoku cloud here as resistance around 120. Regardless, I think all these areas where I'm going to end up getting hit sometime in 2025 is my best guess. I don't have any guarantees. I'm just telling you what I'm suspecting. Finally, one stock that I think people are going to ask me anyway, even if I don't talk about, is Upstart. What I think about Upstart, well, Upstart actually is not bad. It got rejected where it needed to get rejected at the angle, at the arc, and it couldn't hold 0.5, so it came back down, right? Does it have to go all the way back down to 0.382? It doesn't have to, because you also find support here at the bottom support band, right there. So this whole downtrend here is also on declining volume. How low does it go on low volume? Nobody knows. It can keep going down on low volume. Nobody really knows. All I know is that this is a higher low here, and it could hold here, or it could go lower, right? Maybe the kitchen down here below, or it could go lower even down to 0.382, right where the weekly cloud is at, right? Nobody knows the answer to that. All I know is the lower it goes on low volume, the better risk reward ratio there is. And I ultimately see us needing to find a higher low here so that we can break through all this resistance up here to get the 0.618, which is $100, 105 to be precise. Anyway, just want to talk about fintech because a lot of people are interested in fintech, understandably so. I am as well. I have SoFi, I have Affirm, Shopify, Robinhood. I had PayPal. I sold it to buy some other things. I had SQ at some point. I sold it to buy some other things. I never had Upstart, but all of those look bullish for the most part. But short term, some of them look better than others, right? Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.